Hello, it's Brad Laurie or Blockchain Brad, and today we're speaking about all things Ultra. To do that, we have two co-CEOs, something quite unique in this space. We have David and we also have Nicholas. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here to explain everything that is Ultra.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Brad.
You're very welcome. Now, for those who would like to know upfront, this is entirely free. This is for the community, and this is to provide you with educational content so you know exactly what Ultra stands for and you have true information from the source. Gentlemen, thank you very much for allowing this to be possible. It does matter that you can lead out the information to the people and the crypto community. Let's start with by either of you with regard to what you are fundamentally. It states in your white paper on your platform that you are bringing blockchain revolutions to the gaming industry. And most importantly, this is the big catchphrase, that you're the next generation for games distribution as a platform. Lots of words. Maybe we should start with you, Nick, and then we'll move across to you, David, and we can just have a bit of a conversation about what you are.
Definitely. So essentially, as you were mentioning, the sentence on our website, what we are first and foremost is catering to the game industry. So knowing that we've been in the game industry for a very long time now, we built multiple companies in the space, so this is really where our expertise shine. And what's right now in the game industry is that you have Steam, which is the predominant platform in the game space. So this is where you go when you want to buy a game on a desktop, whether it's PC, Linux, Mac. And essentially,
STEAM, isn't it? Sorry to interrupt, just to clarify.
Yeah, not STEAM, but the STEAM. So not the blockchain one, but a really like classic company, which is owned by Valve Corporation, a US-based company. And essentially, they've been around for now more than 15 years. When they started, it was really a great platform because there was few games for many players. So very exciting for the people to be on board, whether they're game developers or players. But nowadays, it's reached in something with so many games, a lot of players as well. But it's very hard, essentially, for the players to actually find out about the games, which are the good ones, and also for the game developers, it's very complicated to actually get their games noticed. After you spend so much money and so much time in building a game, like years usually, when you go to market, you actually want people to see it. And a big problem is discoverability. It's very hard to find a game. So it means you have to spend tons of money on marketing as well outside of Steam to actually get traction. And at the end of the day, once you've done that, so you paid for building, you paid for marketing, and after you send your user to buy the game on Steam, and you pay them 30% commission. So that's something that's, this model doesn't work anymore, I believe. That's why you have people now building game distribution.
Okay.
And so we've been doing that in a way that we are using blockchain to create new core features that allows us to be highly competitive to Steam. So essentially, we provide a solution that is much better for the game developers because they make much more money, lots of new revenue streams. But also for the players, they have the capacity now to earn money by using the platform. So which means at the end of the day, they can buy their game much cheaper because they receive tokens for example, I don't know, participating to a beta test or market survey or item trading, for example, when they receive items in their games, they can trade them, make money out of it. So it's an ecosystem much more open, in a sense also that we don't only do game distribution. That's why we call it the next generation, because it's a full ecosystem. So everything you do around the game space, you can do it within Ultra. So if you want to do live streaming, betting, item trading, tournaments, playing games, buying, chatting with your friends, it's all possible in one single location.
Got it. So one-stop shop, full ecosystem. I have had a look at all the items in your white paper in terms of all the different components of your full stack of offering. There's a lot in there. You've answered two questions in one as well. You've addressed some of the problems. So David, I want to go across to you for a moment. Now, talk us through a bit more of this problem that Nicholas is talking about, because it is important. You raised the issue already, Nick, about some of the key problems, but you allude to Steam. So that's important. How are you one-upping them? How are you extending this with your tokenized economic model?
So if you look at Steam, the way it's built, it's really a closed ecosystem, fully controlled by Steam, and that works within Steam's rules. Our difference is that really what we're doing is we're providing, at the essence, we're providing technology that would simplify the distribution for game developers. But we do it in a very open way. So that means that while we're providing, for instance, Ultra Games, which is a game search engine where you can find games, you can read information about them, see videos, images, and so on. At the end, the purchase of this game happens on the blockchain. So while we have these store Ultra Games, anybody could create such a store using our underlying technology. So what you're going to see with Ultra is that we have our store that leverages the technology that we put at disposal to game developers. But you're going to see other companies starting to make these stores because they will earn the commission fee for the sale. So you're going to see either people who are going to do that like fully dedicated professionally, but you're also going to see people that do this as a side additional revenue stream. So you could imagine, I don't know, IGN, which is a very famous game news website. And right now what they do is they make reviews of their games, and then they essentially link to Steam, and that's it. The business stops right there. They have advertisement. But now what they can do is they can have their own shop integrated inside the store of the website of IGN. And then they could say, hey, the game's right there. You can download it. You can buy it. And so this opens to a whole new categories of shops that are either run by these, established enterprises, but also to perhaps very niche markets. You could see, I don't know, if you knew how many type of, Minecraft games there are today, it's really a genre now. Well, you could see somebody that has a blog that speaks about all of these games, create a little store that specifically sells these games. And then every time somebody buys one, they get a commission, and they're guaranteed to get the commission because it's protected by a blockchain algorithm that handles these transactions.
Yes, and we're actually going to dig deeper into incentivizations. We're going to dig deep into your tech. There's a lot to go in this interview. So you made it clear that you're solving real solutions, looking at real use cases, and most importantly, developing on from pre-existing technology and interfaces such as Steam. That's important. Otherwise, why do it? Steam are already offering something that you're going to perform, so it does need to be advanced beyond that. Now, your mission, Nick, it says here you want to be first class in a PC game publishing platform. How can we trust that you can be first class? What does that even mean?
Essentially, how it works right now when you publish games, it's pretty complicated in a sense that on the game developer side, it's very complicated when you just look at the interface itself. When I take the example of Steam, it's just very complicated just to upload a game, just to let you know. And essentially, we have a fully scaled solution when everybody can target exactly the way they want to do publishing. So for example, if I want to say, I want to publish my game in those specific regions, like, I don't know, Japan, Korea, for example, I can do so very simply. At the same time, I can tweak the price for each region. At the same time, I can also say, okay, this specific game, I want it to be able to be resold by the players. And I want this to happen between 6 months and 12 months after the first purchase. And I want to take 5% or 10% of each resale. And I want, I can continue here on and on. Essentially, we provide for the publishers or developers a solution that is extremely wide. They can really focus on creating the best solution for their specific product, because each game is different. Some games will be MMO games where there is a lot of item trading, when it's free to play. So they will be able to create the exact model for the sales of their game that they want.
Are you saying that the customization feature is what sets you apart? Is that what makes you first class?
I would so to be more precise, so there's two aspects. There's a customization aspect, but then there's also we're heavily relying on technology. We're, in many companies, whether they are from blockchain or not, you can know if a company is a tech company by looking at the ratio of how many business people are in the company and how many developers are in the company. And for us, it's very clear we're absolutely a technology company. And so to be a first class player in the space, there are many check boxes that you need to check. And they are, for example, how good is your SDK? Because Steam's SDK has a lot of features, and it is one of the reasons why today all developers or many developers are only publishing on Steam, because essentially they're locked in this platform, because other platforms don't have feature parity with Steam. That means that they use a feature from Steam's SDK, and then if they want to get their game out of Steam, no platform has these functionalities. And so what that means is they would have to develop it themselves, and they don't have the time for that. They don't have maybe the funds for doing that. Okay. And so they're locked there. So in our case, one of our very big focus is to provide feature parity with Steam's SDK, and we achieved that. And now on top of that, we're going beyond that. We're providing blockchain specific functionalities to this SDK, which obviously Steam doesn't have, that are going to be very, very exciting. And so we have that. We have in-game overlay that allows us to inject user interfaces in-game without having to ask any SDK integration by our game developers. That's also something Steam cannot do. That means that our overlay is going to work in Steam's game, but not the other way around. So
you have compatibility with Steam. It's not reciprocal though. You've injected the blockchain into this. One thing, Dave, I did want to talk to you more about as well is more details of the blockchain integration, because in your white paper, you're not giving away a lot. There's references to it, but I really wanted to talk to you more about the mechanisms and the reasons why you perhaps haven't gone into detail in your white paper.
Okay, well, one of the reasons why we've been very secret about it, and it's actually just a small part that has been kept secret, there's a very big secret we also kept out, is simply because we don't see the need to share this information and give a heads up to our competition. So it is a very strategic reason. Our fundraising and all of that went very well without it, and so there's no reason why we would have to speak about it. There's more and more.
So no one asked. No one, when you went and when you were pitching to them to try and secure the funds to develop the technology, no one asked for assessment of the code, assessment of the secret source that you have.
Yes, so everybody did, but we've done it under NDA, so it is a very different approach. Okay. So we're working with very big companies, which we will announce also in the coming years. We're speaking of global tech corporations, and obviously you need to show what you got before they can take you seriously. And so we've done that. We've done that with some investors as well. So a few people have seen what we've done. And we kept this secret for a very good reason.
And I have a feeling, having read through your white paper as well, it seems like you're going to be unfurling this strategically. You're going to let more and more people experience the platform. I would imagine eventually, it'll become much more open source. But right now, let's pull it back. Let's go through everything that is Ultra. There's a lot to get through. Now, let's talk about both of you. With regard to your experience, that's really important. You both come from serial entrepreneurial backgrounds. You have a lot of experience in gaming as well. That clearly is fundamental for you to be able to, evidence that you can sit in this chair as co-CEOs and lead this out. So do either of you want to start? Let us know a bit about how, you can really do this.
Yeah, essentially, so we are first and foremost gamers. So that's how we actually know each other. We played Counter-Strike, went to competition together in many countries. We were like the pro players when there was no pro players at that time, the very first version of Counter-Strike.
Right.
So yeah, we used to play lots of games, so we have a really good understanding of what's important as a player, whether you like competitive games, MMO games, casual games. So we sort of played them all. And this is where we actually started to create companies after playing together. So we created teams of Counter-Strike, bringing people together, making strategy, going to tournaments, a very small company in a sense. Mm-hmm. And after we transitioned to our very first venture, which was a SEO/web design company. But from there, David, we already had a previous business in the past, but I started really entrepreneurship at that time. It was around, 15 years ago now? Mm-hmm. Yeah, more or less. And essentially, the first game companies we've been building was in China. So we spent around 8 years in China. We sold our company in Belgium. We moved to China. We built a first mobile game studio. We released 3 games in a couple of months. It was pretty well. And after we transitioned to what we prefer, because mobile game is great, but yeah, we are like hardcore gamers, so we can't really spend time playing on the mobile and then enjoy it so much. Right. So we need something more brutal.
We got our soul back.
So we built a PC game studio based in China that David was leading. I was more on the advisory side. And at the same, after that, so we made a FPS game, like AAA type of FPS game. And the technology was so good and so well designed, which was essentially mainly designed by David and the developers. This company got acquired by Kingsoft, which is one of the largest companies in China. If you know Legend, the CEO of Xiaomi, he also created Kingsoft before that. And Kingsoft is like Microsoft before China. They had their Office version of Office, but the China, right? So essentially, they acquired the company. At the same time, I also had a company doing consulting in strategy, monetization for games. So a lot in China and global. And essentially, the goal was, how can you make more money out of your game, whether it's by acquiring users cheaper, retaining them longer, having them starting spending or spend more, all the design around that, the psychological aspect. So we had this sort of experience in grassroots development of games. Mm-hmm. How do we publish games? How do we make money out of games? And how as a business can increase their revenue? And after that, our last venture before this one was actually a massive project. So we had around 450 people working on it. We raised around 120 million from Chinese banks, Chinese governments, and essentially created a game console for the Chinese market. So this console was in partnership with AMD. So AMD, as you know, they've been building the Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo. And at some point, Nintendo dropped because they had to go for a chip that can handle mobile, like for the Nintendo Switch. Mm-hmm. So they switched to Nvidia. And essentially, the Chinese company picked up the contract, let's put it that way, to create a new game console for the Chinese market. So David and myself got pulled in to build this whole company. David was co-CEO and I was chief strategy officer. Mm-hmm. And then during this project, we actually built the hardware. So a game console are 2 things: the hardware that you need to build. So we built in also the CPU, GPU, how it works inside, the design, not the manufacturing, of course, but we had a partner for that. And the second aspect is the distribution of games, because a console is a box that distributes games, like Steam is for a PC. So essentially, we build both the hardware and the software aspect of a platform. So transitioning from this experience to the new one, which is Ultra, essentially, we have sort of been following blockchain since 2011. So we've been mining, trading at that time. We still have some very old blog posts on Bitcoin tokens dating from 8 or 9 years ago. So we've been around for a very long time. But essentially, what was key for us was the capacity of using smart contracts to build new features in the game space. That was the most important, because essentially those smart contracts provide us capacity to be transparent, to make sure if there is a transaction occurring, we can make sure both parties are paid exactly what they are supposed to. There's ownership. You can own a token that is your game and give it to somebody else, and hey, there you go, you own the game now, like a CD. So there's many use the blockchain that we understood would be key for the game industry, and so we started this new company, Ultra, with this in mind, to create a groundbreaking new way to actually play games and use games and publish games, and all your game environment being in one place. And this is what we bring to the table.
It was a really long answer, and normally that can be a challenge when we're trying to really explore everything. But the reason why it's not in your case is because from what I've read, all of the things that you just explained are literally part of Ultra. You've integrated a lot of that in, not just the blockchain element. So David, I want to talk to you about that. If we hone this in, wrap up a bit about what Nick said in terms of those core assets, those core technological assets you brought in to build Ultra. I think that's really important because this is years of work in the making. This is not just the blockchain.
Yeah, that's correct. So when we started the project, we identified the core technologies that we would need pretty easily, since it's very close to what we did for the console. And from these, we made two groups. We made a group that we called the core IPs. And then the second group would be something more like
commodity.
Yeah, commodity technologies. So commodity technologies is what I like to think of technologies that might be important for the project, but this technology already exists. Multiple times, have it been developed by other companies, and so it doesn't have like a core value in terms of intellectual property. And so by separating them, we knew exactly what type of technology we would want to acquire and which one we would want to do from scratch. And so that's what we've done. Now, because of our extensive, relationship network, we knew who made this best of that type of technology, or who made the best of that other type of technology. And so, plus we had a little luck because, there was a company that went bankrupt. We could acquire some of that exact technology that we needed. Okay. There were some of the best in the world. And so overall, we've taken some of that. We've taken also some of the work that we've done previously. And essentially, when you look at what we've won in terms of development time with this strategy, it's immense. And it's not just time that we've won in terms of how fast we can release the platform, but it's also the level of sophistication that we're going to be able to provide day one to game developers and players. And this is a huge boon for us. So it was part of our strategy day one. Again, because we really did the same with the console, we knew exactly what takes time, what is worth, what is not worth. And so we're not starting from scratch here.
Right. And David, just to jump in for a moment, what is really interesting hearing both of your histories, your experience, is that you literally back map this entire company from a need, from the demand, from the marketplace, because you both were gamers. And that's a really unique position to be in, I think, because you didn't just look at and assume what the gamers wanted. You were gamers. So it's great to know that you
and
know.
Game developers.
Game developers as well.
Sides, which is fantastic. We know exactly what both sides need.
Right.
And they are both, required to work together, because, you need the users to sell the games. And you need the games to get the users.
Now, on top of that, you've also made some key promises through the literature I've read. Things like you want to be fairer for developers. We're going to find out how. You want to be effective for marketing, providing marketing tools, essentially. Revenue streams, you've mentioned them already. And then you want to be backed by industry leaders. Now, you've already alluded to some of those connections. But how confident are you, gentlemen, that you can meet those targets? That you can actually fulfill those promises based on real proof, not just, the narrative that you're building something?
Well, I think a great way that we're going to, confirm that is simply when we're going to start announcing the people that are working with us. It is that simple. Game developers really have a problem right now with the game industry. Discoverability is an issue, and the revenue, the amount of money they can make out of this game is a real issue. And so we've been working with them for now 2 years, discussing our platform, asking the right questions. What do they need? What this and that? And we've participated to every video game trade show you can imagine, GDC, E3, China Joy, Tokyo Game Show, Gamescom. I mean, all of them, we've been visiting them. And every time we see the same developers, because, we're working with very large companies and they are everywhere to these trade shows. And over time, we could show them more and more about the progress. We also addressed some questions and concerns they had. And right now, really, the thing we're facing is, when is it ready? When is it ready? We want to use it. We want to do it. So this alone, I think, is a great. It's going to be a great confirmation of how right we've hit the target.
Well, Dave, that's a perfect segue. When is it ready?
Okay, so we're in closed beta right now with a select amount of partners, and I think it's in September, if I remember, end of September or October, where there's going to be an open beta. And where the gates are going to start, opening and increasing our user base.
Yeah.
Okay,
we don't start massively. We take first for the open beta around 10,000 to 100,000 users on the platform, and then we essentially scale over time this number. We first essentially through our networks of partners, they have all the users we need in terms of quantity. There's no problem. It's mainly how much do we want to have when to make sure all the functionalities are working perfectly. Then we can scale over time the amount of players in the platform.
Okay, so
it's a total open beta, actually. That's a correct term.
Okay, so can I ask you both, gentlemen, why there wasn't more transparency with your roadmap planning from alpha, beta, and all the way through to your mainnet and beyond? Because it was difficult to find information about your planning.
Again, it was part of our secrecy, strategy.
Yes, essentially, there is really no need for us to say, okay, the mainnet gonna be in a month and a half from now. It doesn't bring any value whatsoever to the company at all.
What about us, though? Nick, what about us, though, for us to understand if we want to educate ourselves more about your plan? If we take, for example, an IPO model, I think it's fair to say that when you're trying to understand better a company's intentions, that there is some sort of map there. So are you saying that you didn't want to give too much away, or trying to understand a bit more about the limited information on the roadmap?
Yeah, essentially on the roadmap side, so we have what we can put on the roadmap is, okay, we are in closed beta. The mainnet is at that specific time, and actually those information are communicated to the people under NDA. We have a beautiful roadmap sheet that we share to investors and to people, partners. And essentially the reason why we don't go broader is because we want first, I would say, to get people excited when we show them something, not just be like, okay, this is something, and okay, tell me more about it. Okay, but we cannot tell you more about it right now. So you're gonna get upset because you know something's coming, but you don't know what it is. I don't want that.
Right, and I appreciate that actually. That's actually the rare, because right now in the crypto space, we see the opposite. We see FOMO based approaches. We see a lot of prospecting for value. Literally, just like you see gold, we see people FOMOing on and hunting for more information. But what you guys are saying is, look, we're not going to give it to you until we've proven it for ourselves, and then we can show you we're the real deal. So I appreciate it. It's an interesting balance, this whole, reciprocal pursuit for information. Now, with regard to the model itself, I really want to understand more from you about the staged nature of your software information release, because you're not giving it away, as you said, Nick, much information, but you are staged in your software. So I want to understand that better. And Dave, can you explain to us, how do you fit in the nomenclature, in the terminology we use, if we're talking about things like SaaS, software as service models, is that fundamentally what you would describe yourselves as, or would you consider it something else?
Okay. Well, I think in many ways you could say that. But then there is a part that is really a SaaS, and then there is a part that is, I think, more than a SaaS because of the open nature of the blockchain, right? So we do have SaaS components which we will announce in the coming month that is related to our SDK. We have something that's very, very cool that no other platform have ever done, and that we'll see. Yeah, so I can mention it. So what we're going to provide to game developers and also application developers is the ability to not have to worry about handling servers and a scalable infrastructure. So if you look at a game, for example, where you're getting like a random loot, the way it works is that you're going to have a request that's sent from the client to the server. The server is going to do some queries on a database, and then there's a little algorithm that will pick up a random item from like a list, and then it sends the answer to the user. Now, this is really, to its essence, very simple to do. But now try it with 1 million concurrent users. And that's another problem. It becomes very complex. You need data architects, you need database specialists, you need infrastructure. I mean, there's tons of things going to make that happen. Plus, you need to maintain it. You need to take care of the security. There's a lot, yada, yada, yada. So what we do is that we developed something that is part of the SDK where you can just create your, 3 lines of code that just, makes the query, takes the random and sends the answer. And you do that online through our, what we call the dev center, where, you get access to tons of tools and great things to tokenize your games and so on.
The game is going to love that. The devs are going to love that.
Yeah. Yeah, you just put that script, you do save, boom, this thing is unlimitedly scalable, fully secured. You have no server to handle. You have no need for, a big team. So something that typically would need 5 people now can be done by a single guy in an hour, which would normally take, months maybe to set up properly and have it scalable.
And Dave, just listening to you speak, it sounds like your platform really is just in that last tweak phase. Is that fair to say? It sounds like you guys have such strong knowledge of this platform, of the interface itself, that you could literally potentially launch this tomorrow if you wanted to, but you're just doing the final parts to this?
Yeah, so the SDK is fully working, has been tested with 1 million concurrent users. It's proven tech. We know it works. We have multiple versions for, easy integration for Unity 3D, for Unreal Engine, and so on. So yes, what I just mentioned there.
That's a big deal. Pull that back a minute. So Unity.
It's ready.
Unity Engine. Let's talk about that a bit. Now, those two are well known, Unity especially. You're compatible. Yep. What does that mean for you, given that you already have other technologies that no one else in the space has, potentially?
Okay. So if you look at, for example, the one of our board advisor used to be the CEO of Unity 3D for China. So we have very, pretty good contacts with that company.
Just a little.
And there will be, so there will be things we'll do for them. But eventually, like at this point, what happens is a large chunk of the game industry uses Unity 3D because it's easy to use, and this fits very well with our philosophy, such as what I just mentioned. This SDK online API technology is really catering for this type of users. But then we also have an integration for Unreal Engine 4, which goes more into AAA games and the larger companies we're working with. So this simplifies their work there as well. And then we support Lumberyard as well. And then something that's really unique is that we also support web games. and that's great for
Wow.
decentralized games. So today, if you look at Steam and so on, they didn't really focus on web games. We support them fully. So all these decentralized blockchain games are going to be very welcome on our blockchain. And through this cloud script mechanism, they can generate on our blockchain NFTs. So you can, right from within this script, you can say, create this, Sword of Fire NFT and send it to the user's inventory on the blockchain.
Right, and that's really important.
Like every time.
Right, and that's important, the NFT, in conjunction with also establishing a marketplace for them. You've done both, just like Engine's done. So let's talk about that for a moment. If I, let's say, let's pretend I'm a gamer. You guys have been in that situation for sure. I've made my own sword or something like that through the NFT, but I also want to exchange that. I want to interact in an ecosystem. How have you made this possible for when finally you do launch?
Yeah, so the way we're going to, so at this point, our focus was to really work on the NFT because, at the end of the day, you need to prioritize things. And for us, the priority was the NFT technology, blockchain technology, the capability of our NFT. We haven't created the marketplace yet. And the reason why it hasn't been a top priority is simply because there are already many marketplaces. Right. So we're talking to them and they integrate our NFT. And so they are platforms that will be able to trade our virtual items very fast. Eventually, we might do something integrated in our platform that, fits with Ultra's team. But really, functionally, they're going to be already tradable on our platform.
Now, in terms of agnostic nature, this is what I want to better understand from you, David, as well. Now, all of the full stack of your tech, that's proprietary for the most part. It's your own secret sauce. But utilizing the blockchain should be technically agnostic as you build out. Is that the plan, that you'll be more interoperable with other blockchains?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way you need to look at us is because of our experience working on the corporate side of business. Security is a big matter for us, and also the guarantee that we provide the infrastructure that is reliable to our partner is a big matter for us. So our plan is to, while we're closed initially on certain aspects and some other are open source, we're going to gradually open source everything and open the blockchain fully to be like entirely decentralized and guaranteed all of these different aspects. But it is because of security reasons and because of the guarantee we want to offer to our partners that it's a reliable platform. We're doing this gradually because we want to see the dynamics that happen around. If there is an issue, we want to be able to address it instantly, or instead of having like a political discussion whether or not this thing should be done. We don't want that. So we have this strategy that releases technology over time.
I see. Now, with regard to the blockchain of choice to start off with, you are EOS, an EOS fork. EOS often synergizes well with gaming, I've noticed, especially in China, a strong developer community there as well. What are the reasons why you went for that fork?
So when we started working on our blockchain, EOS was, well, actually, it wasn't even running yet. So we were creating our blockchain based on the testnet version. So there were no games at that time. It was a pure technological decision based on the blockchain capabilities and also the trust that we had in Larimer for delivering that technology. And the great part is that while we've solved some issues that are problematic on EOS for us, we kept the interoperability of the capability of the platform. So we made sure that we're not messing with certain aspects of the blockchain to be able to make these inter-blockchain communications possible. That's one thing. Another thing that we made sure to not to touch is the smart contract engine. That means that any smart contract that exists on EOS can publish on Ultra. And that's a big deal because we solved the user acquisition and onboarding friction issue from EOS. So as you know, you need to pay RAM to create a user, and then you need to actually stack coins to make transactions. So we solved that problem. And so for many smart contract developers, having this onboarding friction is actually impacting their business and the amount of people they can bring on board to their business. And so we can imagine that they would take their smart contract and also publish it on Ultra and not have any friction on growing.
Got it. EOS must be very happy with you because obviously that the integration, the compatibility is advantageous for both of you. No doubt for you, tapping into their community is significant as well because they have a sizable one as well. Do you feel like you've made the right choice to start?
Oh, for sure, for sure. Well, we're super happy to have selected EOS. It was a bold move back at that time. Everybody was really saying, "What are you doing? This is not a good idea."
Especially with the centralization question, the limited number of nodes, but security is one thing that it certainly does profess to have.
Yeah, but fast forward and we see, we did the right choice, and so we're super happy. I think what we're doing, even though we're a fork of EOS, is going to be a boon for EOS as well, because our technology is going to be interoperable. So our SDKs are going to be able to work on EOS. Also, we're going to evangelize the platform as a whole. So everybody making games for Ultra, the platform, are going to be using EOS.io technology as well. So in many ways, we're contributing to making EOS.io better. And also on the tech itself, at one point, there's going to be things that are going to come from our blockchain that are going to be pushed on EOS.io source codes as well. So it's very positive for both sides.
Absolutely. Now, Nick, I want to talk to you, and if it's tough to answer, obviously defer to David, but I want to understand also the years of development pre-blockchain in terms of the following. Things like your content distribution, 8 years in the making, overlay tech, 6 years in the making, ad tech, 4 years in the making. That's a lot of years, guys, that you've spent on this stuff to build this stack. I really just want to understand more what these terms mean collectively.
Yeah, essentially, we didn't made 100% of all those technology. I want to be very clear on that. Essentially, there is some tech that we've built from scratch, from our employees, from different people we've worked with in the past that came and joined our company. Some of them, for example, on the advertisement side, it's a technology that it's already running today. It's working, I think, serving like 33, 34 billion ads every day. So it's something really powerful, but it's been created by our team. So we don't state it's technology that is a company Ultra, because obviously we've been here since 2 years, so we couldn't have created something before the company exists. But essentially, the people within the team created those technologies. Some also we acquired exclusivity license, for example, for anything blockchain. So if you want to use the same technology, I'm thinking for distribution, for example, this technology is used by the game that has the largest amount of players in the world, League of Legends, for example. So those technologies are heavily proven. We know because we used them previously in other companies. And some we acquired actually exclusivity rights on those because we know business-wise the importance of having those exclusivities. So this is something which are moves that we've done based on past experience in previous companies on how you can be competitive on the market and keep that edge against potential other companies trying to do similar things. So for, I would say, distribution, ad tech, also the overlay technology. The overlay technology is pretty cool because we knew the people for a long time because we already used the technology in the past, and we could acquire the source code of that company before they disappeared. So they have an amazing technology. They didn't have the best business model, I would say, but technologically-wise, they're amazing. So this is what we made as a decision. That's why also, if you see, we did raise money in the past already for this company, and that's also something that was helping to drive those acquisitions. So if you can see that what we raised before, there is nobody so much speaking about Ultra since like recent times. And why? Because we didn't spend any money on marketing, because we spent all the money on tech.
Okay, but let's talk about now the things that are specifically Ultra as well. Now, David, Ultra Go, a mobile platform app, from what I understand, and also, you know, we've already talked about the protocols, so we don't need to go into too much detail there. But what does it mean to have integration of mobile centric apps so that people can access them more easily?
Yeah, so the mobile application is going to be essential for the spreading of Ultra. Now, Ultra Go, so Ultra, in many ways, you can see it as an extensible video game ecosystem platform. So there are going to be services that come from us, but there are going to be services that are going to be integrated from third parties. And we want to keep this concept on the mobile. So Ultra has been designed in such a way that the user experience is actually going to be very similar on mobile, like how you access to the different sections of the platform is going to be very similar. So that's one thing. So, and then since day one, every technology that we've used for the development of the platform as a whole has been done with cross-platform capability in mind. So Ultra is being made right now for the PC world, so the desktop, I should say, so which is PC, Mac, and Linux. So Windows, Mac, and Linux. But the libraries we're building, or the cross-platform libraries we've used, are all allowing us to do what we're doing for mobile as well. So
that's a huge deal. For developing regions of the world, that's huge, because many people don't have a PC. That's a luxury in those regions.
Absolutely. So one day you're going to be able to buy games also on mobile. It is not a priority for us. This is why Ultra Go is a little further, because what we think is the reality is really the PC market has a huge issue. It has tons of problems to be solved, and nobody has solved them yet. So there's an opportunity for us there. While on the mobile market, you know, it is a very competitive space. There are many stores that exist because of the openness of Android. Now, plus there's another issue that's you know, a problem right now, is that Apple so far is still a closed ecosystem. You cannot have a store on an iOS device, and so even if we would want to sell games on iOS, we wouldn't be able to, because they don't allow you to.
Right, because they want to also have that monopoly and that degree of control and the centralization that's inbound with this. We see this play out, you know, over decades. This is the very problem you're trying to solve.
Yeah, so as part of our roadmap, eventually we're going to have the mobile platform ready, and we expect by that time the European Commission will force Apple to let this third-party store happen, and then we will be ready by that time. So we still have time. There have been targeted, you know, many times. I think the time, you know, it's getting the right time soon. It's going to happen, and this gives us some time in the meantime to focus on the PC market, and then eventually all these PC users will be able to flip them into mobile users.
Right.
Something quite important as well on Ultra Go, it's essentially gradually expanding. So we first take the features that are important to have on the go, like for example, your wallet. Because if you want, for example, to use your Ultra wallet, because we have our own wallet as well, if you want to use it and pay, I don't know, for to buy a game at GameStop, for example, or if you want to go like to Starbucks, whatever, you can actually have this mobile companion app that helps you to use your wallet outside of the platform. So this is also the case for the chat. So you want to keep in touch with everybody that you're playing with during the day or after in the evening time. So we gradually extend the Mobile Go application, Ultra Go, based on what's the core mobile important applications, and then that after expand to the whole platform with all the features of buying games and everything.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is you've back mapped again from the PC because you're solving a problem there. I find that interesting because it's not an easy task to do. Technologically, you have a very, very strong team. If anyone wants to go and look at the team, it's quite impressive. But I also want to talk about the market itself. Try and understand the magnitude of this. I've read into some of the things you've written, things like a $32 billion marketplace, 88% is untapped in this space. How confident are you guys that you're in that right time right now to really actualize this and capitalize on this untapped marketplace?
Yeah.
Well, I think the way, I can't speak for Nicholas, but for me, the way I see it is Ultra going to be a success? Yes. Is it going to be an ultra success? Maybe. So, so either ways, it's either going to be fine for us because the gap is so huge, or it can go very, very well. And this time will tell. We think we have something that nobody has ever done. And this typically helps, taking, important market share, an important piece of the market share.
Yeah, essentially, to come back on the 85% of untapped market, if you see right now the landscape is that you have Steam that has a good amount of players. We are really the leading monopoly, I would say, right now. But at the same time, you also have all those huge players, and this is like EA, Ubisoft, Blizzard, like the top game companies and studios. They don't want to go, most of them don't want to be on Steam because they have to pay this 30% commission fee or something a bit lower because they have good connections. But essentially, it's not interesting for them because they are not in control of their players. As soon as they put their game on Steam, the players belongs to Steam. You don't even have his email address. If you want to contact him, you have to go through Steam. So you can imagine for those huge corporates, they want a solution that makes sense for them. So right now, they are trying to do their own solution, which so far hasn't been the best out there. So they're all looking for a solution that actually makes sense business-wise, because we are at 15% commission fee, and that includes the bandwidth, that includes the payment processors like PayPal, credit card, and whatnot. So at the end of the day, if they use Ultra to publish games, or if they do it themselves, it accounts to the same price because they have to maintain this platform. They have to need the engineers and everything. So at the end of the day, being an Ultra is more interesting because they tap into a huge market, a huge user base of people that are accessible, that they are not on their platform, that are already there. Plus, they also have the access to Chinese market. And Chinese market is the largest market in the game industry, like hands down. And already it is very complicated to break into that market because you have to know how it works. And the thing is, we stayed last 8 years in China and we built game companies there. So we interact with most of the people, most of the big game companies, marketing companies, so we know inside out how it works. And Ultra proposed to all those developers to have prime access to China through our partners, which are actually handling everything for them. So they can handle publishing, which means they do community management, customer acquisition, the events, the government relations, and censorship, which is key. And essentially, they also provide a whole platform to distribute the games, which is Ultra. So we have this neat solution for people who want to break into China, which are the case for every company, including the top companies, because most of them didn't do it well so far. So here, there's a capacity to partner with someone global, but also providing them access to Chinese markets and all the tools and license they need for doing so.
Right. What's really interesting is that you do have that experience in China that's going to be absolutely imperative because of the sheer scale of gaming in that region, and particularly in flourishing regions of Asia. You're not far away, and certainly you know about those regions, such as, for example, perhaps Japan or Malaysia, or I'm not sure exactly the region, Singapore. There must be regions really building out from China because of the influence. You're literally situated there. Now, in terms of fundamental benefits, some of the things that I wanted to find out more about is exclusivity of games. Also the reselling of games, the secondhand market as well. All kinds of things are beneficial because of your platform. Can you talk us through some of those core benefits?
Yeah. So regarding reselling of games, so how it works is it needs to fit in the business model of the company selling games. So that's why I was explaining earlier, we're very flexible in terms of how the publisher can customize his game sale. So for a game developer, how it works is right now you sell your games. So usually it's a really a curve during your launch, the number of sales, and after it drops dramatically and then flatten out for a very long time. This is usually the sales process. So there is some upticks sometimes, which are based on huge promotion, like Steam does for, they have like summer sales or whatnot, and then huge sales, but actually you don't make so much money because you had like 80% discount. So at the end of the day, it's not very interesting. And so how it works on our side, that the game dev can say, okay, you can resell your game after 6 months. So which means when you buy your game as a player, you're like, okay, cool, I'm gonna play this game, it's gonna be awesome. When I finish playing, I can sell it to somebody else. And the thing is, the game developers get his commission because he defined initially what's going to be the percentage he gets from the sales. So it's good for the player because he can get more money that he can spend back in the ecosystem to buy some items, to buy some games, whatever he wants. But it's also good for the player, for the developers, because they actually earn more revenue than they would do if they would just keep selling the games and at high discount and then nothing the rest of the time. And it creates an army of people after 6 months that have all the interest in the world to talk about their game again because they're selling themselves the game. You know what I mean? Right. This is pretty cool because it brings marketing, but also it brings more revenue to the game developers, more awareness. And for the players, we also have something that has never been done before, neither. I used to play lots of World of Warcraft, for example. I spent enough time. And I know my account now worth at least $1,000 for sure, for all the characters, all the items inside and everything I have. But if I sell it, I have to trust somebody else on a forum telling me gonna pay me maybe one day if I'm giving my account. And if on the other side, I'm buying the account, there is no guarantee I will give the account neither and I get paid. So there is a big problem there. And for the game developers, it's a pain because they don't get any money from that. So for them, they're like, no, this is forbidden. We ban people doing that for sure. Mm-hmm. So with our solution, if I spend so much time on that game, I can actually value my time and sell my game with the data inside of the game and the account. So you will buy it from me at like 1,000. The developer is gonna get, I don't know, 20%. So you get $200 for a game that he already sold. And then I get 800, and I'm sure that the blockchain gonna guarantee me that I'm gonna get paid. And the buyers know you're gonna receive the data as well with the game. So there's all this second-hand resale is not only about the game, but also about the data of the game. So people can now value their time, even if they play. You know, you have many services now providing like leveling solution that you pay, and somebody in the country which is lower salary can actually afford to do that and then get some profit from that. So here, people can actually do it themselves, and the people who want to do that, they can. So there's lots of new concepts that been around, but impossible to realize without fraud, but are not possible without fraud.
Right, and that's the beauty of the smart contract also, because it's immutable and it's transparent. Yep. Dave, I want to talk to you about something very direct, and that is the token itself. Why do you need this token, given that you do have your own proprietary technology? You technically could just have fiat injected into your system and use that as a a pricing model and use fiat for fees, use fiat for your services, and more importantly, licensing. So why do you need to go beyond this? Why do you need to have fundamentally a token to act as the fuel for your whole ecosystem?
These tokens are at the center of the technology in itself.
And that's what we need to know more of, to be honest.
Yeah.
This information is much more important.
Think about it. If you watch an advertisement on Ultra, you receive $0.05, right? So if I have to pay you that and you're living in Japan, I pay $15 to give you 5 cents. Not gonna work. So essentially, if you don't have a token, there is many features we cannot do. Like for example, if you participate to a beta test, I can make sure that you as a player get paid instantly, and then you can reinvest that to get an item in the game. And I can give you like a tiny amount of money each way because it's divisible. You can make 0.00 something and tokens change. If you pay in fiat, most of the payment cannot work on the platform because we have, I would say, instant transaction. There is no fee associated with that. So which means, for example, if you're a game developer and then you launch your game, you need a publisher. And why you need a publisher? Because you need people who spend marketing money for you, why it's right to do so, and get, in return, they get a percentage of your sales, right? Mm-hmm. So the reason why is because it's very expensive to launch a game in marketing. As I was explaining earlier, you have the game sales, and after it drops. And here, for this part, the growth, you actually need a lot of money. But if you get paid instantly, without any fee, every time there is a sale, you can reinvest in the same ecosystem to do more marketing. So you don't need a publisher anymore. So if we would be paying you in fiat, we would have, first we would have to wait 30 to 60 days, like is the case on Steam. So there is no way you can actually do that. You have to have a publisher. And also you have to trust your publisher that you're gonna get paid when he says you're gonna get paid, and on the condition he decided you're gonna get paid. Where here, with a smart contract and the token inside, you can actually get paid a percentage straight away from each sales, and you get paid a percentage straight away from each sales as well, the influencers as well. So everybody get paid straight away, instant, and without any fee. So just that remove a lot of features on the platform if we can't have a token.
Got it. So there's friction.
There's also a general philosophy in Ultra, the ecosystem, is that we want everybody who touches the platform to earn money, and that includes users. Now, if every time a user registers on your platform and you need to ask them their banking information, that's a problem. Here it is frictionless. So you register your account, we generate your wallet, and boom, you're ready to get, stuff by contributing on the platform. So that's a very obviously new and important aspect that cryptocurrencies allow us to do.
Yeah, right. Except for the influencers. I would say on the influencer side,
also,
imagine if I have a blog, or here you have a YouTube channel. If you're an influencer talking about games, now you've seen a game that is pretty cool. You're like, this game is great. I want to talk about it. And the publisher or the developer said 15% or 10% of the sales when I come to the guy who sold the game. So when you're going to redirect the players to buy the game, you're going to get rewarded for that when people purchase the game. So you don't need to trust me to send you 10% because I said I would. You can just trust a smart contract in between, and then you get instantly paid by the tokens as well.
That's going to be fundamental because it's immediate, it's immutable, and we don't need to rely on any third party. It can happen seamlessly. But again, harping back to the fundamental terminology of the token, utility tokens, the term that to represent this, but we're still talking a lot about payments. We're talking about nano payments in this context as well, Nick, because obviously it's so fast. But there are other things also, I would imagine, that this token can do. Because one of the things that we do see play out is that, again, it's a fundraising token at the beginning. You've got to start, as David alluded to. But beyond even payments, surely there's much more to this that you need to really allow this whole ecosystem to work in concert, to work with all pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah, we provide incentive essentially for both the players and developers to actually hold and spend the token. So how it works is that we have a solution for gamers who want to stake that token to actually receive some free games, free items, entrance to tournaments that they wouldn't have access to otherwise. So we have a neat solution that essentially rewards them for simply staking and holding the token in their wallet. The same way also, it's a lack of a VIP system. People who are very active on the platform, whether they're just active reviewing everything, giving some comments, or at the same time they are buying a lot of games or content, we have a sort of ratio, like a rating for each individual based on how much token he has, how much token he spent, his activities, and then those people get into a sort of lottery, but they get some really cool content. So free games, again, free items, tournament entrance, everything you like within the platform, you can get it for free if you're like part of the community. The same way for the game developers, if they keep, because essentially they get paid in tokens, and we incentivize them to keep those tokens in a sense that keeping the tokens provide them a reward in a sense, which is free advertisement on the platform. So there's advertisement credits that they can spend to get more awareness for their product. And in return, what do? They hold longer the tokens in their wallet. So we have stacking mechanism, but we also have for both players and also both for developers.
With regard to other means for businesses to engage with you in terms of licenses, in terms of the services that you're built in, right now, from what I've read, you can use fiat to do this. You have a structure in place where USD is the currency that your token is connected to directly. So that, let's say I'm a business, I could technically not have to worry about the volatility that we see that typically plays out in the crypto sphere, because you've designed it this way to make it easy for me to do business with you. Can you talk about that in the context of the utility and more value add for your token?
Yeah. So how it works essentially is for anybody who doesn't own tokens can use its classic payment method to use the platform. But at the end of the day, it always ends up in tokens because of all the features I mentioned earlier. So you need to have the token for that. So if I'm a player and I want to, for example, use PayPal or credit card to buy my game, I can see the price is always fixed in my local currency. But the price in tokens vary over time because obviously it's a volatile token, so the price can go up and down. And so the price of my game is going to be different based on the time of the day. But the fiat price always the same. So if I don't have tokens and I want to buy a service or a game, I simply use PayPal, for example. We, as a company, we receive a notification from PayPal that you paid this much money for this specific product. And we on the back end, we actually have a deal with an exchange to purchase on the exchange our own token. And then this token is sent out to the smart contract that will process the transaction. So we send out this transaction with the amount of tokens needed, plus metadata to say, okay, it's that player that bought the game. When you receive the amount, send the game token to the player. And then those tokens after goes to the developer, publisher, the commission for the platform.
That's so fascinating. That's so fascinating because you mentioned you have an agreement with an exchange to do that. We can also trace that. The trackability, the transparency afforded by the blockchain means that we can trust there's a true correlation between the injection of cash or PayPal or credit card straight through into your token. That's a really important thing for trust in your ecosystem. So I really appreciate, Nick, that you've explained that, because it's one of the big things that I think we need to make sure does happen for those that are ledge, because many times we don't know. That we don't know for sure if that back-end handling is happening or not. You're saying it's all open and transparent.
Yeah, at the same time, it's important to understand that it's not only for players, but it's also for anybody using the platform. So if you're a developer or a publisher and you want to advertise on the platform, it's the same process. You say, okay, I want to buy for 200,000 USD worth of advertisement. You use your regular payment method, and then we handle the process on the back end as well. So it really goes both ways. So if people want to reach players, they use fiat, no problem. We handle the process. Mm-hmm. If they want to, if it's a player, they can use fiat as well. So it really goes both ways.
Got it. Now, here's a tough one, guys. You're not going to like it, but let's talk about the raise itself. A lot of people don't know, firstly, much about Ultra, but on top of that, we don't know how much you raised. We don't know what the lockup terms are. We don't know what the hard caps are. Can you give us a rundown on what you can tell us about what you've done so far and what your planning is?
Actually, we published recently lots of articles. If you can go through, for anybody who want to learn more about it, on our announcement channel, you can see a lot of articles. One includes everything related to token flow. So what I was describing just now is all very clear in the article online. And regarding your question as well, essentially, sorry, what was the question?
Well, it's about the raise. So if we talk about the evaluation, your hard cap.
We haven't kept anything secret. Just to be clear, on this aspect, definitely we need transparency, and so we've always been very open about it. And I think there's an article or certain document.
There is a full article about that. Essentially, there is an article about transparency that highlight everything about the raise, every single thing about the raise, like private sale before, the lockup periods, how much was the cost, the price of the token, so lockup investing. Then for the block round of the IEO, we also had like very clear numbers. It's been after the IEO, we also provided an article public about everything that happened. 1 million was for TokenX, 1 million was for Junjunbit, which is a partner of TokenX. So everything is 100% transparent on that.
Got it. Okay, I'll make sure I find the article. Sure, and I'll put the article in the description below for those who want to know more. Can I just ask you though, and this is important, the valuation we see, especially with the kinds of projects like yours where you're well and truly established with regard to your team, your tech, often there's an over-evaluation. We see ridiculous valuations to $1 billion. Are you confident that you've got the metrics right and that you have valued this accurately and fairly?
Yeah, essentially, totally. The reason why is, so we have a whole calculation model on why the token should be what value at launch, at which period, and so on and so forth. And essentially, if you check around the other projects, if you think about, I don't know, Wax, for example, Wax, is an item trading platform. So they do like about 5 to 10, probably around 5% of what Ultra does as a whole. And they have a market cap, I think, of around 60 or 70 million, I believe. And right now, with what we have, knowing that the beta is coming out in less than 3 months, actually in end of September, early October, we are at around 3, I think we open at 3 million, 3.5 million. So you can see the huge difference that is there. It's not because we want it to be that way, it's just because we think it's fair. And the people who want to support the project should be able to support the project.
Got it, and I really appreciate that.
We undervaluated it in that matter, actually.
Well, that's what I was wondering about, actually.
Because we cannot, this we can cut after. We cannot say that.
Undervaluations, from my point of view, at least, that's a refreshing concept for us, because we see a lot of overvaluations. Now, in that context, gentlemen, let's talk about IEO. That's a tough topic because you've been through it. And a lot of people were talking about that. There's a lot of expectations of performance that did not happen. But in this context, the trajectory is long, the roadmap's long, the road to other exchanges, no doubt, is literally paved. And you can't talk so much about that. But what you can talk about is what was it like going through this IEO, and why did the things play out the way they did to your knowledge? And how can we trust that you've really got a roadmap for more exchanges, for more planning, for more development, of your ecosystem?
Yeah, so far, essentially, I think the team has been working extremely long hours during the last 2 months to actually make this happen, to provide as much information to the public as possible before this IEO. And essentially what happened to me is that you have a lot of people doing IEOs on some exchange that are known to provide you 3x, 5x, 7x, or whatnot. But what people usually don't know is how it works behind the scene. So you have to have special agreement with those exchange. And Bitfinex being, I would say, a really legit exchange, they don't have such, they don't force you to do things in a way or another. They're like,
okay, let me help you out, Nick, because you're being too nice. So what you're saying is that because of Bitfinex, because of Legitfinex, let's say from your, to use your analogy, they haven't said to you, look, we're going to 3x your token. We're going to 4x your token. We're going to pump this for you. You're saying that you're really focused on something that was legit to reflect you. Now, if that's the case, do you think there's a problem in this space with some of the exchanges not being as transparent? And does that make it more difficult for you because other projects are listing when they're just going for the money grab, a short-term fix, when you're trying to be legit with a legit coin in a legit context?
I would say what's important, I think, is the fundamentals. So we try to make sure our project is fundamentally good, in a sense that what we build is what we believe is going to be like providing a ton of value to people and to companies throughout the world. We are not really in the business of marketing, if I may put it that way. So you have a lot of projects or exchange that are in this business of, okay, making it huge and then it goes very high, then very, very badly after. But okay, sure.
Pump and dump, we call that.
Sorry?
Pump and dump, we call that.
Yeah. You can call it that way, but also some project, if you dig really deep into it, there is really nothing, but there is crazy good marketing. So at the end of the day, it's great because it's short-term for people. So people want to be making short-term benefit. This is the place to go. But the people who are in Ultra, to me, really understand what we build. And so the people who are inside now that we are a community, when they talk about a project, they understand the fundamentals and they know they want to be in for a long run. And they know if they stay there, it's probably a good decision. Yeah, I can't make any,
Beautifully said, I think. You did the best you could. And I'll try and translate in the way I can. Basically, from your experiences, that you really did your homework to try and start an IEO with someone you trusted, with an entity you trusted. And no doubt you guys would have been shocked by the way in which some of these things play out with other entities, with, often with technologies that aren't real, for example, but just get pumped because everyone's happy and makes money quickly, but then they all exit and leave. Now, in your case, here's a tough question. Clearly, you're presenting the narrative that you're legit and you've got all the empirical evidence to suggest this is the case. How do you then engage with this greater crypto sphere and then start to get listed on other exchanges? And how do you navigate through this very convoluted space to make sure you're always working with legitimate entities?
So essentially, in the crypto space, there is a lot of players, some really big players as well. And definitely you want to work with them. I mean, they are part of the ecosystem, they are leading the ecosystem also in some good direction. What I meant is not everybody's doing things wrong. Lots of people are also doing things right. It's just the way they do is maybe different. But for us, the people we partner with are really huge corporates that everybody essentially want to be associated with, no matter where they are in the crypto space. So this is also some added value for those exchange that, okay, I have this brand, I have this exchange, and what we do is amazing. What if I'm linked to this top corporate in the world that everybody knows? I'm like, okay, wow, this is really good for them as well as like a branding. So they're like, okay, we support Ultra, who are like with all this consortium of huge companies working together. That's really a huge added value. The same way you have like people joining, for example, the Blockchain Game Alliance that we founded with Ubisoft and other big companies, also some crypto companies. People want to join that because they also want to be part of this legit and trusted world of people like, okay, these real companies, you can go knock their door, you know where they live, there's not a problem, the company exists there, they have a real business. So this is something that also brings a lot of value, I believe, to any crypto project or any project like exchange or payment solution or anything around the space. Being associated with such brands is always something very positive.
Got it.
And the way the token works, if exchange dig deep into how our token works, they can understand how interesting it is. It really is. Through the articles that we can share, you will see the mechanism. You will be like, okay, this is what I need.
Right. And now, given all that you just said, surely exchanges have been knocking on your door. Now, you chose Bitfinex to launch, and you explain why. We know the likes of high volume, strong reputationally based exchanges. Let's just throw some names out. I can do that. Binance, Coinbase, and there's others. Now, are you having any discussions with any of these big exchanges right now?
Right now, we are having discussion with some big exchange. Yes, I can't really disclose which one or the status. But
I appreciate that.
To lots of people.
Okay, I appreciate that. Now, gentlemen, I want to talk to you about the partners. Bitfinex was clearly one. We don't need to explore that further. But you also have others, things like Crypto Gamers, Master Ventures, IBC, and the list goes on. Do you want to just comment on any that really stood out for you in terms of real world reciprocal benefits, so that we can understand that your partners aren't just about giving you capital?
So, the ones, we have a series of them that are that are going to be extremely obvious, but there are listed companies and we can't speak about them until the joint announcement has been done, which we're scheduling, as part of a marketing roadmap, if I could say so. So unfortunately, the thing that really matters, we're unable to speak about it, but
that's okay. I appreciate it. Now, for a gamer, I read about your war chest. That's quite interesting. Do you want to talk a bit about the benefits of that with regard to incentivization, because it's quite unique?
Yeah. There's multiple. So something that you will see with Ultra is that even on the tech side, is that we're trying to always comply with regulation, because we work with companies for which that matters. Obviously, if you're Ubisoft, you don't want to have issues, I don't know, in Japan because you didn't pay your VAT there. So we take care of this on the blockchain level. And there are other matters sometimes that are proactive measures to avoiding possible future regulation. So if you look at, there is a concept in the blockchain that is, burning coins. And we have the very, bad impression that this is going to bite people's ass at one point, because why would you burn money, right?
Why would you burn also your utility asset?
Yeah, if it isn't for propping the value up. So in our case, we don't want to go into this issue, even though, right now it's not part of any regulation, but it is a proactive stance we're taking into. And so instead of saying, well, we're burning money, we can freeze it. And this is, it's like a savings account for us. And we can do that for 2 years. And then what we do is that this money is going to be reinvested in the further development of the ecosystem. So whether it is through development of additional functionalities of the platform, or financing of new exclusive content for Ultra games.
And the reason I ask you, gentlemen, is because it also is a very proactive way of changing the total supply at any given point, because you're taking that out into the war chest, but it's not a burn. That's really important, because you're still keeping the integrity of that utility token in place and in play.
That's correct.
Right. Okay, that's really interesting. Now, on the note of regulation, you already kind of answered it, Dave, but are you making sure, guys, that you're really aware of all the regulatory requirements in different jurisdictions, and that you're following them, especially given the complexities of the terminological problem of security versus utility, etc.?
Yeah, I would say you cannot imagine how many lawyers we deal with for the moment. It's impressive. I'm impressed by it as well. I'm like, yeah, but it's needed.
Right.
But essentially, yes, we already have because our main entity is Estonian, so we have already some legal opinion from top lawyers there, a legal firm, that actually explain why our token is not a security, for example. But also we have to be sure that in each country in the world where there are players or developers, that we are also not considered as a security. So we have a wide network of lawyers that we work with to actually make sure there is no problem there. Because you have that, you have also the VAT aspect, you have the data protection aspect. So it's quite complex in a sense that you need to cater to each region, because you have GDPR for Europe, but also you have the same regulation in China, which is the data protection for China. But you have to comply to all those single regulation and make sure you're legit and doesn't incur any risk for your company or for anybody using the product. And that's what we made sure that we follow that process. It's a little bit different because we are not so decentralized and do everything in a sense and see after. We are more coming from a corporate world where you're like, this is the rules that might happen. We have to make sure we are within those rules when those rules occur.
You raise a really great point as well, Nick, in that you are essentially for profit. You're a real business. You want to be viable for the long term, and you've got a team to really build this out. Now, community, guys, that's probably one of the most fundamental things as a startup, even with the stellar team and the tech you've got. What's the strategy there? How are you going to get people engaged to really start to build this out from the user and the developer side?
Yeah, so to take one side at a time, on the developer side, so we have a really great team in place, Edouard Moalem and Melissa Brown. So they're the main people, the CSO and the head of DevRel. So they've both been in the space for a very long time now. Ed was the head of Apple Games and Google Games before. So yeah, really connected in the industry. That's why they are located in San Francisco, in the Bay Area, where you have most of the top game industry companies. And so far, they already signed up more than 100 game developers and publishers. So wow. It's more than, I think, 2,000 of 3,000 games now. So which means when we launch the platform, we actually have a huge portfolio of games we can pick from to actually make a good launch strategy, because you don't want to have 1,000 games day one. Nobody wants that. You want to have curated games that are catering to the first audience you bring in. And then you expand that with more and more games, but always well-selected games.
Wow.
So that's on the game side, but you also need to have players. Players want games. If you don't have games, don't worry about getting players, it's useless. So to acquire players, on the game side, we have some games that are going to be exclusive to the platform. So people want it, they come on Ultra, and that's how it works. But also we have a huge strategy around partners. So we haven't announced yet, but we have 2 major partners, more than that, but let's say the biggest ones. So one is one of the top companies in US, and essentially they provide 1 to 1.5 million users to the platform every month, according to the data they provide from similar partnership with previous company. So we hope really to be able to scale pretty quickly on a global scale, but also in China, we have one of the top game companies as well that we partner with. And essentially what they do is that they are what we call operator. So they are in charge of user acquisition, content acquisition, partnerships, events, customer support, licensing, government relations. So everything that we do in the West, they do it only in China. And wow. So they already have today 70 million monthly active PC gamers, so our target audience. And right now they do publishing, development, marketing, everything you can imagine, but they don't do platform. So they will be Ultra in China. So their Ultra platform is them. So they have all the interest in the world to bring their entire user base inside of Ultra, because now that's a new revenue stream for them and a place where they can actually link all their business together for all their user base. So it's pretty exciting for them and for us.
Absolutely. And what's really great is that you're really addressing both the East and the West. I don't like to use those terms very often, but you certainly are with regard to gaming, because there's certain assets from those core regions that really can be built into your whole model. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time, because one of the things I'm hearing over and over is this word legitimacy. Legit really is something that you is integral to your whole ecosystem, and you really want to be heard. I can sense that, especially given now it's post IEO. It's time for people to really see how long you've spent to build this platform out. It's really about changing the game for gaming, doing things that simply haven't been done. And it's not just about the blockchain. You're teaching that it's the integration of blockchain with other technology that you're not even telling us yet. I really do wish you all the very best as you continue through. It's not about the FOMO. It's not about price changes and advocating for engagement just in the crypto sphere. This is about literally changing opportunities for people to engage in the gaming industry, to literally revolutionize the way that we can engage as gamers and as developers. You guys have done it in many different contexts. Now it's time as co-CEOs to really change the game, and I wish you all the very best as you continue.
Thanks so much, Brad. Thanks a lot for all the time you spent with us. We appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Hopefully we can catch up soon.